Antoine Washington was shocked at 5:30 a.m. while doing night maintenance work at St. Louis Cemetery, No. 1. The gravestone that read Marie Laveau, 1881, yesterday evening now read Jacques Moreau, 1847. Same grave, same place, but different name. Antoine had been working at this cemetery for 15 years and had never seen such a thing. But this was just the beginning. In New Orleans' oldest cemetery, the dead were awakening to tell their own stories. In the heart of New Orleans, right next to the French Quarter, stands St. Louis Cemetery No. 1, established in 1789. Known as the Cities of the Dead, this cemetery is famous for its above-ground tombs due to Louisiana's high water table. In these sacred grounds where Voodoo Queen Marie Laveau's tomb is located, hundreds of years of stories are buried. 58-year-old Antoine Washington, as the last representative of the Washington family, a Creole lineage, worked as the night watchman and groundskeeper of this cemetery. However, Antoine hadn't accepted this job because he was connected to voodoo like his ancestors. He was here simply to make a living. But the cemetery itself would ask much more from Antoine than he expected. Antoine's 15-year routine life at St. Louis Cemetery would change forever after the night when gravestones mysteriously began changing places. Each night, a different name, a different date appeared on the gravestones, and with each change, Antoine would discover that the dead were not simply resting in peace, but were seeking a voice to tell their own stories. New Orleans' darkest secrets, remnants of centuries-old voodoo rituals and unfinished stories were just the beginning of the horrifying truth awaiting Antoine. Antoine Washington came from one of New Orleans' old Creole families. His grandmother, Evangeline Washington, was a renowned voodoo priestess until the 1960s and had deep connections with St. Louis Cemetery. However, Antoine was a modern man and didn't believe in his ancestors' superstitions. After being injured while working in construction, he had to work in lighter jobs. The groundskeeping job at St. Louis Cemetery provided him with a calm and steady income. His duties were simple: guard the cemetery from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., prevent vandalism, clean up trash left by tourists, and perform grave maintenance. The cemetery had housed New Orleans' rich, poor, slaves, and free people side by side since 1789. One of its most famous residents was Voodoo Queen Marie Laveau. Her tomb attracted hundreds of tourists daily. In Antoine's 15 years of experience, the cemetery had always been calm and peaceful. Occasionally, vandal youth or tourists would enter at night, but he hadn't experienced any serious problems. On a cold November night, Antoine was walking among the old graves in Section 2 during his routine patrol. Near Marie Laveau's tomb, he saw a familiar gravestone: Céleste Bordeaux, 1834 to 1889, beloved mother. He had seen this grave thousands of times. Celeste was a Creole woman who lived in the 19th century, and her grave was frequently visited by tourists. At 5:30 a.m. during his final check, he was shocked. The same gravestone now had different writing: Jacques Moreau, 1802 to 1847, died too young. Antoine couldn't believe his eyes. He examined the gravestone closely. Same stone, same material, but the writing was completely different. It looked as if it had always been Jacques Moreau's grave. When he told John Thibodeau, who came for the morning shift, about the situation, John shrugged. "Antoine, you're tired. You've been seeing this grave every day for 15 years. Your eyes are playing tricks." But Antoine was certain. Something had changed. On the night of November 4th, Antoine specifically monitored the Celeste/Jacques grave. He checked it every hour throughout the night. Each time it read Jacques Moreau. When he checked at 4:30 a.m., the gravestone had changed again. This time it read Isabella Trem, 1845 to 1901, free woman of color. Antoine began taking careful notes. He recorded each change by taking photographs. That night he noticed changes in another grave in Section 3. The grave, reading Thomas Beauregard, 1823 to 1866, had become Mama Brigitte, unknown to 1899. Antoine recognized the name Mama Brigitte. He had heard it from his grandmother Evangeline. She was an important figure in voodoo tradition. On the night of November 5th, Antoine began hearing whispers in the cemetery. Even though there was no wind, very faint conversation sounds were coming from among the graves. At 1 a.m., while standing next to Isabella Trem's grave, he heard a clear woman's voice. They never told my story. Nobody knows what really happened." Antoine froze. He looked around. No one was there. The voice seemed to be coming from inside the grave. "Who's there?" he asked. "Isabella. Isabella Trem. I need to tell you about the fire." Antoine's heart began beating rapidly. He remembered the stories his grandmother told. "The dead sometimes speak," Evangeline would say, "but only to those who can listen." The next day, Antoine researched Isabella Trem at the New Orleans Public Library. Isabella, born in 1845, was a free woman of color, a rare situation at that time. In the 1870s, she operated a boarding house in the French Quarter. Records showed she died in a fire at her boarding house in 1901. However, Antoine found more details in old newspaper archives. Times-Picayune, March 15, 1901. The fire at Isabella Trem's boarding house occurred under suspicious circumstances. Trem had told neighbors she received threats from local white businessmen before the fire. The cause of the fire is being investigated. Follow-up news, March 22, 1901. Isabella Trem, fire investigation closed. Official cause announced as accident. Antoine understood that Isabella's story was that of someone who couldn't find justice. On the night of November 6th, Antoine went to Isabella's grave and spoke loudly. "Isabella, I want to hear your story. What happened that night?" A soft woman's voice came from the grave. "They burned my house because I wouldn't sell. I helped runaway slaves. They couldn't stand a free black woman owning property." "Who burned it?" "Arsenault family. They wanted my land for their cotton warehouse, but no one believed me. They had money, power." Antoine took notes. The Arsenault family was one of New Orleans' old plantation families. That night, voices began coming from other graves too. Jacques Moreau. "I was murdered. They said it was yellow fever, but it was poison." "Mama Brigitte. I helped so many, but they called me witch, burned my altar." Antoine now understood. These graves belonged to victims of injustice. On the night of November 7th, when he arrived at the cemetery, he saw a strange light around Marie Laveau's tomb. A bluish, flickering aura surrounded the grave. When he approached Marie Laveau's tomb, he heard a powerful woman's voice. "Antoine Washington, grandson of Evangeline, you have the gift." "What gift?" "The gift to hear the dead, to be their voice. Your grandmother had it too." Antoine remembered his grandmother's stories. Evangeline said she could speak with the dead, but Antoine never believed it. "Why are the names changing on the graves?" "Because their stories were forgotten, erased, hidden. They want justice. They want to be remembered." Marie Laveau's voice continued. "Each night, different souls wake up. They take turns. Hundreds of years of untold stories." On the night of November 8th, Antoine was now prepared. He came with a voice recorder and notebook. The spirits that spoke that night, César Carpentier, 1847. I was a free man of color, but they kidnapped me, sold me back into slavery. I died trying to escape. Marie-Claire Dupré, 1823 to 1859. I witnessed the murder of my master. They killed me to keep me quiet, said I died in childbirth. Toussaint Laborde, 1804 to 1831. I organized resistance. They caught me, hanged me, but said I committed suicide. Each story revealed dark truths not found in New Orleans official history. On the night of November 9th, Antoine asked Marie Laveau for more information. "How many souls are trying to speak?" "Hundreds. This cemetery holds 200 years of silenced voices. Slaves, free people of color, poor whites, women, all who died without justice." "What do they want from me?" "Tell their stories, research their lives, give them the recognition they never had, be their voice in the world of the living." Marie Laveau gave Antoine a special mission. In Section 4, there's an unmarked grave, a mass grave from 1853 yellow fever epidemic. 23 souls buried without names. They need proper recognition. On November 10th, Antoine researched in Section 4. Old records showed that during the 1853 yellow fever epidemic, 23 people were buried in a mass grave. Most were from poor black families and no one recorded their names. That night when he went to this area, he heard 23 different voices, male, female, children's voices mixing together. We have no names. No one mourned for us. We were just numbers. Please, give us identity. Antoine decided to record these spirits and create a monument for them. On the night of November 11th, all the spirits gave their final messages to Antoine. Isabella Trem. Tell them about the boarding house, how I helped runaway slaves, how they murdered me for standing up. Jacques Moreau. Investigate the Bonnefoy family. They poisoned me for my land. Prove it. César Carpentier. Find my family records. Show that I was born free. Restore my dignity. Each spirit asked Antoine for a different task: research, documentation, revealing the truth. Antoine took time off work to begin full-time research. He examined records at New Orleans Public Library, Louisiana State Archives, and Tulane University. The results he found were shocking. Isabella Trem had indeed been threatened by the Arsenault family. There was a police report from a week before the fire. Jacques Moreau had changed his will the day before his death, leaving his land to the Bonnefoy family. This was suspicious. César Carpentier's freedom papers existed, but the police report from the day he was kidnapped had gone missing. On the night of November 12th, Antoine shared the documents he found with the spirits. I found the evidence. Isabella, the police report about threats exists. Jacques, your will was forged. César, your freedom papers are real. A wave of satisfaction came from the spirits. Thank you. Finally, someone believes us. Our truth will be known. Justice, even if late. Marie Laveau's voice. Now you understand your gift, Antoine. You are the bridge between the living and the dead. On the night of November 13th, Antoine spoke individually with the 23 spirits in the mass grave. Each told their own name and story. Celeste. I was 8, died with my mama. Samuel, dock worker, left 3 children. Marie, seamstress, nobody claimed my body. Antoine noted each name and story. He wrote a short biography for each of the 23 spirits. Antoine presented the information he found to the New Orleans Historical Society. The evidence was so strong that the society decided to start a monument project. Dr. Rebecca Thibodeau, president of the Historical Society, Antoine's research revealed hidden pages of New Orleans history. These spirits truly deserve justice. On the night of November 14th, when Antoine came to the cemetery, the atmosphere had completely changed. The gravestones no longer changed. Each bore its own true name. The voices from the spirits were peaceful. We can rest now. Our stories will be told. Thank you for giving us our voices back. Marie Laveau's final message. You fulfilled your destiny, Antoine Washington. The gift of your grandmother lives in you. These souls can now rest in peace. On the night of November 15th, Antoine patrolled the cemetery for the last time. There were no more voices, no changing gravestones, only peaceful silence. A final whisper came from Isabella Trem's grave. Remember us. Tell our stories to the world. Don't let injustice be forgotten. 3 months later, a special monument was opened at St. Louis Cemetery, Number 1, Forgotten Voices Monument, in memory of souls who were victims of injustice and whose voices were silenced. To Isabella Trem, Jacques Moreau, César Carpentier, and 200 other spirits. Below the monument were summaries of all the stories Antoine had researched. Antoine left cemetery groundskeeping to become a full-time paranormal historian. He conducted similar research at other cemeteries in New Orleans. The dead speak, says Antoine. You just need listening ears. Every cemetery is an archive of silenced stories. Antoine's work led to the launch of a major research program called the Forgotten Voices Project in Louisiana. Antoine now understood that his grandmother was right. While examining Evangeline's old voodoo notes, he found this sentence. Spirits always speak, but only those with open hearts can hear. The Washington family's duty is to be the voice of the dead. Antoine continues to proudly carry this legacy. The cemetery is no longer just a tourist destination, but has also become a historical justice center. The stories Antoine found were included in New Orleans' official history. Visitors now remember not only Marie Laveau but also Isabella Trem, Jacques Moreau, and other forgotten voices. Antoine Washington's experience at St. Louis Cemetery went down in New Orleans history as a powerful story showing how the silenced voices of the past can reach the present and that justice is never too late. Do you think Antoine really had paranormal abilities, or was he just lucky? If you could speak with the dead, who would you want to talk to first? Share your thoughts in the comments.